Hi, I'm Charley here with Psychedelic Invest. Today I'm sitting down with Therapsil's Director of Training and Operations, Yasmeen deRosenroll, to talk about how the nonprofit is helping people access psychedelic medicines and training the next generation of psychedelic therapists. Hey, Yasmeen, thanks so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm good. So nice to be here, Charlie.
Fabulous. I'd love to start, if you would, just tell us a little bit about how you moved into psychedelics and how you found your position as training and operations director at Therapsil.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was introduced to psychedelics probably 6 years ago when I started looking for my own healing journey. So over the last 20 years, I was really focused on trying to heal some of the trauma I had from childhood, from losing my dad at such a young age. And I had seen countless therapists, psychologists, coaches, did group coaching, group counseling. I even engaged in my own coaching certification, saw psychiatrists, many doctors, and I wasn't able to get to the root of the trauma. And so about 6 years ago, I started engaging with microdosing of psilocybin, and soon after that, some bigger doses with psilocybin and 5-MeO-DMT, and was finally able to get to the root of what I was holding on to of my dad's passing. And for the first time, I truly felt healed and that I had that knowing. And so after that, I continued to engage in my healing journey and started talking to other people about psychedelics as it became a bit more known in Vancouver. And so soon after that, I heard about the opportunity at Therapsil from a dear mentor of mine. And it really just seemed like a complete intersection of everything I was passionate about. I was volunteering at a cancer center for a very long time. And that paired with the training, the palliative care, and psychedelics, it just seemed like a perfect intersection of all of my passions. And after doing some research on Therapsil and everything they were up to, I was so keen to get involved. And yeah, I joined about 2.5 years ago now.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, Therapsil, it's such an interesting organization because you guys do so many different things. So on your website, it says that you guys are dedicated to helping Canadians in medical need access legal psilocybin. So how does the training program tie into that mission, and why is it so integral?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, we are a patient advocacy group advocating for legal access to psychedelics in Canada, in particular psilocybin. And a big part of access is ensuring that clients and patients have trained healthcare professionals that they can go to for safe and effective treatment. Mm-hmm. So for us, it's ensuring that we've got a pool of healthcare professionals that we can refer these patients we advocate to. For safe and effective treatment, from preparation to dosing to integration. So ensuring that they're trained and that they've got support post-training, because training really is a continuous effort. It's always evolving, since the field of psychedelics is kind of in the gray area. We need ongoing supervision. We need a community of care and practice to go back to. Because we really want to ensure that no one is alone in this journey, because as soon as someone takes psychedelics, there's so much more at stake.
So the therapists that are giving treatment to the patients that you help, get access through the special access program, are they all going through your training program?
Yes, absolutely. So we have a practitioner directory that healthcare professionals can be added to once they have completed our training. And for patients who go to therapsil.ca/patients, they can then see this practitioner directory once they've gone through our intake.
Okay, and they, through the special access programs, are patients able to choose whichever they can go through the directory and choose who they want to work with?
Exactly. So we train across Canada, and so folks can select their location and then select which therapist they want to work with. After that, there's also a co-sitter directory, physician and prescriber directory, which the therapist can then refer to. So really, treatment teams are really important for this to work properly. So a good treatment team in our eyes consists of at least one doctor, one therapist, and one nurse to really support that patient through their healing and treatment journey.
Yeah, very cool. That's such like just built like you built out the whole, process, which is really cool. So it sounds like it's all like people who are already certified as mental health professionals who are coming into your program, correct?
Yeah, so in order to be eligible for our training program, you do need to belong to a professional college with a code of ethics and regulatory body. MDs, therapists, and nurses are all accepted to our training program.
Mm-hmm. And I know you guys, I think it was recently released that you're starting a MDMA training program. So how has that been getting that built out, and where do you see that going? Will it be similar to what you guys do with psilocybin, or a little bit different?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're excited to be piloting that program on the week of February 12th under the leadership of Dr. Ingrid Pacey. And in order to be eligible for that training program, you do need to have taken our Fundamentals of Psilocybin Assisted Psychotherapy training program. Right now, we're really seeing that our stakeholders, both patients and healthcare professionals, are wanting to support all patients through the Special Access Program. And now that MDMA is eligible for Special Access, I think there's been 25 applications approved. We want to make sure that we're best supporting the patients who are coming to us for support. So we can now, if we do have MDMA training, we can then support patients who are trauma survivors suffering from PTSD. So that training program will be similar to the Therapsil psilocybin training program, but it will be focused on MDMA this time. And yeah, they were piloting that in February, and then we'll have another cohort coming up in June.
Okay, very cool. And with the MDMA through Special Access, is it like psilocybin where primarily it's just for end-of-life conditions, or are people getting approved for PTSD right now?
So it's not for end-of-life conditions. So psilocybin through the SAP program is eligible for folks with end-of-life distress or major depressive disorder. For MDMA, it's for folks with PTSD as a diagnosis.
Yeah. Very cool. It's amazing to see that expanding. Okay, so this is a bit of a long-winded question, but in talking to a bunch of people in similar positions to you with different training programs, something really interesting has come up. I've heard from like 6 different people without being prompted the same exact thing, and I'd love to get your take on it. So they've all said, and I think your colleague John said this as well, but they talk about how with so many options for, like styles of practice, right? There's the medical, and like you can come from look at studies and what they've done there. And then we also have our indigenous practices and like underground practices. There's so much. And they all say that it's really important to not take too broad of a scope in what they're training their students, because it can just kind of become overwhelming. And if you try and train them everything, there's not like specific practices. Is that something that you guys have experienced at Therapsil, and how have you addressed that?
So we're really focused on the Western medical model right now. So it is a smaller scope, and we definitely recognize the gap in our training, right? We know that the true knowledge keepers of this medicine are the Indigenous people. And so we do have Indigenous knowledge keepers such as Dr. Duncan Grady, who offers Indigenous teachings to our trainees. But primarily we are working from the Western medical model. And the reason for that is because we're really trying to enact medical regulations as a first step in Canada to broaden access. And then we're hoping that after that, we'll be able to broaden access even further. But we're really focused on the research and the clinical trials and are using best practices from that research.
Okay. And can you talk a little bit more about what you're pulling from, clinical trials and research to, of course, make sure that your patients have therapists who are qualified, but then also balancing that with the regulatory side of what you guys have to train?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've based our training clinical protocol on all of the best research coming out of NYU, Johns Hopkins, Imperial College, and that's for the full patient journey from preparation, dosing to integration, using a standard 25 milligram dose. So all of our clinical protocols, the dyad work, for trainees, the integration work, it's all based on that research. And so in our clinical protocol, it is a therapeutic model. So we require a minimum of 3 preparation sessions, at least 1 dosing session, and 3 integration sessions, as well as 2 follow-ups for all clients to go through. And that's the model we're teaching and training.
Mm-hmm. And what do students learn about what they're doing in those sessions to help their patients, and how does it build upon what they've already learned through their professional practice?
Yeah, so through their professional practice, psychedelic psychotherapy is very different than your day-to-day talk therapy. So it's more of a hands-off model where the client has their own inner healing capabilities that they can call on. So it's more of a hands-off approach and not taking the client out of their process. So it's a dyad model. We always say, just for safety of both the practitioners and the clients, that we need 2 sitters for every client, unless it's in a group model, in which case that would be different. But it's more of a hands-off approach. There can be lots coming up for the clients or patients, so making sure that they've got a hand to hold is really important. But it's really about letting the client do their own inner work and healing work.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the protocols and teachings that you guys have in place to help with harm reduction, or potentially any adverse experiences when patients are taking psychedelics?
So for harm reduction, that generally refers to the underground. So we're really focused on an above ground approach, but always having 2 people in the room, really ensuring that the client has gone through the proper intake system, that there's no contraindications, and ensuring that there's plenty of preparation done, plenty of integration done, because if integration isn't done properly, the journey is just the journey, and they can't bring those learnings or teachings into their day-to-day life. So ensuring that they're really trained for integration is very crucial. And one of our trainers, Dave Phillips, has created a beautiful integration wheel where to support trainees and clients in their integration journey. So that's really crucial as well. And of course, set and setting, ensuring that all clients have a good set and setting prior to engaging in a medicine session.
Is there any hands-on training while people are going through the program? Like, are they able to sit in on any sessions, or are they going through like a digital course and then going off and doing this treatment?
So I think one thing that differentiates our training program from others is the in-person model. So our training program has 6 steps. Part 1 are the pre-readings. There's 50 hours of pre-readings and audio resources. Part 2 is an in-person training seminar. And so we host those all across Canada. They're very small containers, so maximum 12 participants. And that's really to create a safe container that's necessary to do this work. And so that's a didactic training with an experiential component in the form of breath work, where trainees will have an experience breathing and have an experience holding space for their learning partner. Mm-hmm. And then part 3 is online. So it's a mixed model. Part 3 is online, and that's a chance for trainees to go a little bit deeper on topics that are covered in the training, that are so important to this work. So that's Indigenous Teachings by Dr. Duncan Grady, Neurobiology and Neuropharmacology by Jag Dahl, and Ethics Training by Kylia Taylor. And then step 4 is their own experiential session, where they'll have an experience with medicine in an altered state of consciousness and an experience holding space. And then part 5 is supervision. So kind of back to what you were getting to with supervision. So we want to ensure that trainees have the opportunity while holding space for a client to have a supervisor on site, or to be able to go back to a supervisor to share their experience with the client. So kind of more of a case study. And so we offer group supervision or one-on-one supervision for trainees from prep, dosing, or integration, wherever they're needing that support.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit more about how you're able to train someone to hold that space? I mean, it's an odd skill, especially like for someone coming from something like talk therapy, or maybe a psychiatrist who's trained in, prescribing medications. How does one learn how to do that?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of this training is actually about doing your own work, because you can only take a client as far as you are willing to go. So our trainings are often not only the practical components of this work, but about doing your own inner healing so you can really support a client. And as I said earlier, it's more of a hands-off method, where with psilocybin, the trainee is their true inner healer, and you are there to support them. So I don't like the use of guide, because the client really is their own guide. And so we're really teaching them to be there to hold space and to really ensure that the client's prepared and supported pre and post experience.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Can you just expand on, what kind of things students find within the program that are teaching them this, like what readings they're doing or what guidance they're getting from the educators?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in terms of the how are you asking about like that hands-off approach?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So just in general, what the program looks like, what students are seeing and learning when they're going through it.
So there's 50 hours of pre-readings and audio resources that they can access prior to the course. And then in person, each trainer has their own flavor that they bring to the training. And I think that's what's really beautiful about our training program, is you can find a trainer that really resonates with you. And so, for example, our founder, Dr. Bruce Tobin, incorporates a lot of art therapy in his training, which is, it's an amazing training course. And then all of our trainers incorporate breathwork into their training. And I think that experiential session is so key, because it really gives trainees the experience what holding space is like, and what it's like to be in that client role as well, because they switch roles with their client. They prepare them for the experience. They have the breathwork experience, which is the experiential session, and then they integrate that experience. So it's a very hands-on training. Trainees can be prepared to support a client once they have completed the training. So I would say it's very hands-on, and we bring in some amazing experts too, to go a little bit deeper on a lot of topics and host lots of small group discussions.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of like feedback. So they're trying it, getting feedback from their partner, and just kind of sounds like just getting that experience of working with someone and then being able to look at what you could have done better.
Yeah, there's lots of case studies. There's you're going through the whole model in our training, from prep, dosing to integration in both roles, not only as the practitioner, but also as the client. And I think that's what's really important, that you can empathize and understand what the client is going through when they're engaging in the process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Maybe talk a little bit more about how you're creating this whole ecosystem to feed like training and to actually getting it into the hands of patients?
Yeah, absolutely. So, through our community of care and practice, which is there's about 600 people part of our community of care and practice. We're really trying to mobilize treatment hubs across Canada. And that what's really important there is that post-training, the training doesn't end, right? You're engaging in supervision, you're showing up to a psychedelic cafe, which is our networking events that we host in person and online. And you're creating that trust with other healthcare professionals in your region. So the networking component is really, really important because you need to have that trust and compatibility when holding space for a client, because they will pick up on any energy in the room. So once a treatment hub is created, what we require is for a therapist to always be set up with a prescribing physician, because they are the gatekeepers in Canada. So pretty much on our website, once the patient has filled out the intake form, they will then gain access to our practitioner directory, which holds all therapists. And so the therapist will then do a mental health assessment. And if they have the check of approval, they think they'll be eligible for psilocybin access through the SAP program, they will then work with the prescribing physician to complete that SAP program, which has been templated and filled out probably 80% of the way. And then the prescribing physician will complete it, send it to Health Canada. And then we generally hear a response within a week. To date, Therapsil has not received any denials for special access. We've received some incompletes and then make sure that they're filled out to Health Canada's requirements. And if we don't hear back, one of our lawyers will file a mandamus application. So generally we've received a 100% success rate. And then once the SAP is approved, they'll begin the preparation with their therapist. And then on that last preparation session, they will meet the co-sitter, who's generally a nurse or a social worker who doesn't have the clinical experience. Then they'll go into the dosing session with the therapist and the co-sitter, and often the prescribing physician as well. And then finally, they'll move to integration. So that first integration session is with the therapist and the co-sitter, and then the following integration sessions are just with the therapist.
Okay. Cost is a big barrier for a lot of patients seeking treatment, because it is, especially with so many people involved in the process, it can get really pricey. How have you guys been able to address that?
Yeah, so we're not a clinical organization. We refer to our trained healthcare professionals. Generally, what we're seeing is treatment to be within the $3,000 to $5,000 price range, which is very expensive. And we're advocating from province to province for subsidized treatment. So one thing that one of our trainers on our team, Dr. Jean-François Stéphane, has done, which is just unbelievable, is he has advocated for public coverage through REMQ, which is the Public Medical Services Plan in Quebec, to cover treatment for his patients. And REMQ has covered 2 doctors for each treatment from start to finish of the treatment, which is just unbelievable. In BC, we've seen Pacific Blue Cross cover treatment for a long-term disability patient who's trying to return to work. Those are 2 unbelievable scenarios that we are trying to push the government to expand. And then another way to bring costs down is if you have extended medical coverage, often those prep and integration sessions can be covered through extended medical. So those are some ways to bring the cost down. But we're always advocating for more, because we want more people to have access to this very, very important treatment. And in Canada, we cover medical assistance in dying, which is fantastic, but we should also be covering medical assistance in living. And so that's what we're advocating for right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Have there been, it sounds like you guys have had a pretty smooth ride, or at least you are doing the due diligence to not hit any regulatory hurdles, but have there been any major challenges faced with all these strict regulations that you guys have had to overcome?
Absolutely. We are constantly advocating due to the regulatory hurdles. One that affects the training program is back in 2020, we received 19 exemptions for healthcare professionals to legally use psilocybin in the course of their training. And we had a very compassionate health minister at the time, Patty Haiju. And since then, access has been barred. And so Nicholas Pope, who is an amazing lawyer who's doing pro bono work for Therapsil and has been for a couple of years now, is challenging the government that all of the other healthcare professionals in Therapsil's training program should have that same access that those 19 healthcare professionals received 3 years ago. And so we're really fighting for that. We're representing 200 healthcare professionals right now, and Nicholas Pope has been fighting hard for them because we truly believe that in order for these healthcare professionals to best support clients, they absolutely need experiential learning to move forward. So that's a regulatory challenge. Another regulatory challenge is the cost. We are constantly fighting for subsidized funding for clients so more people can gain access to these treatments. These treatments should not only be for the privileged. We need to support all Canadians in medical need. And another regulatory challenge is the hoops it takes to get through the special access program. This should be a doctor's a gatekeeper model. That's what we're pushing for. We're pushing for medical regulations. And right now, to have to request for someone's medicine to the government of Canada through Health Canada is just not the best way to move forward in access.
Mm-hmm. Back to your first point on that. So those 19 therapists that had approval, they were able to take psilocybin and experience it?
That's right. And those were the first healthcare professionals in Canada to gain legal access through the Section 56 exemption process.
I read, I think a couple weeks ago in Canada, there was a court case where therapists were denied the right to be able to do that. Were you guys involved in that?
Yeah, we're representing all of those healthcare.
Okay, so that's the one you were talking about. Yeah, I had read about it. I hadn't made that connection. Will you talk a little bit more about why you guys think it's important for the therapist providing these treatments to be able to experience that?
Absolutely. So we think that, and we fully believe that in order for a therapist, doctor, or nurse to best support their patient, that they need to be able to understand what a full strength psilocybin experiential session is like so they can fully empathize with the client and understand what they're going through. This is not your regular talk therapy. It is a very deep spiritual experience, and they need to be able to understand what this experience is like so they can best support their client through this journey. It's the same thing where as a therapist, they've done so much training and they've received therapy before becoming a therapist. So we fully are fighting that they need experiential training to best support their clients and empathize with their clients from start to finish of their experience.
I'm curious, and I don't know if you can speak to this or if you even know, do you see like a mix of underground with this, above ground treatment? Like our therapists who aren't able to do that experiential training, then going underground to experience it? Like, is there a mixing of it, or are both kind of staying in their lanes in Canada?
Oh, there's an absolute mixing of it. I think, and all that to say, there are some amazing underground therapists in the field. I just don't think we should have to force people underground. As soon as you move underground, like, we really need to rely on our colleges to ensure that the clients, as well as the healthcare professionals, have a code of ethics and belong to a regulatory body. as soon as we move underground, there's lots of uncertainty. And so I think many people are going underground because they want to best support their client. It's the last resort for their client. And so they are having to engage in illegal work, which I don't think we should ever force someone to do. So absolutely, especially in BC where things are much more relaxed, there's tons of underground work happening. And I think we just need to we should have the option to bring this work above ground and make it easier for patients who do not want to go underground to access their medicine. And same with healthcare professionals who best want to support their clients. I don't think we should be forcing them to move underground, especially when 19 healthcare professionals have already been approved to use this in their training. They should have the exact same rights as those 19 who received access back in December of 2020.
Yeah, absolutely. And are you seeing a lot of students coming, from underground to above ground through your program, or are you seeing more people who do not have experience with psychedelics, but are seeing a need for it and are seeking out a new, pathway for education?
I'm actually not too sure. What I am seeing is folks who are seeing their clients begin to express interest of using psychedelics, or who are already using psychedelics and they want to better support their clients. So that's why they're coming to Therapsil, is so they can get the training to support their clients who may be already using psychedelics or who are interested in using psychedelics.
So there was a survey that came out, I think 2 or 3 months ago, talking about how in Canada, a large percentage of people who are using psychedelics are not talking to their health professionals about it. Are you guys doing any advocacy to help facilitate that relationship between, people's current healthcare professionals who might even not know that much about psychedelics, but encouraging people to seek advice about their usage?
Yeah, I think there's still lots of stigma in the field. What we've launched in February was a prescriber training. And that's for prescribers in Canada, so doctors or nurse practitioners, to gain a high-level overview on what this therapy is all about. And so just a chance to dip their toes in, learn about the neurobiology, neuropharmacology, contraindications, the current studies, and how to fill out the SAP. We find that this is a great tool for people who are wishing to fill out the SAP, but also a great tool for people who are a little uncertain and want to learn a little bit more about this prior to jumping in. So we host that training once a quarter online. It's only 6 hours. And so what we've seen is many people who are interested, but kind of on the edge, join those trainings.
Yeah. Wow. You guys really do just have such a comprehensive program. Like, you're hitting all these different areas. And I think, if I'm correct, you guys have been around, what, 4 or 5 years?
So we were founded in 2019, and then our training program was launched in March of 2021.
Yeah, so all of this has just happened so fast. I mean, how have you guys been able to facilitate this growth while doing so much advocacy and all these training programs and just hitting kind of every area of the, stairway to access?
Yeah, I think it's our team. We've got such an incredible team. We are very small but mighty. And an amazing board of director, and in particular for the training, we've got such a fantastic training committee really steering the way. They all have so much experience and they really want to see this done right in Canada. So I think just working with incredible individuals who are purpose-driven, who know the benefits of this therapy and who want to ensure that it's done right has been our secret to success. We're not trying to blow this up. We're a small nonprofit. And so I think doing everything very carefully and doing things in a slow way has been really beneficial for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's amazing. And how many students have you guys been able to put through your program so far?
600. So yeah, it's been wonderful. We've hosted about 50 cohorts to date, in-person ones, and then we've hosted 4 prescriber trainings.
Yeah. So if you guys are doing these, the in-person trainings all over Canada, you guys must also have a huge number of educators working for you as well, no?
Yeah, we have 8 trainers that are on the training committee who are offering the fundamentals course, and 4 prescriber trainings who are hosting the online prescriber course, as well as a pool of supervisors. So once again, small but mighty team who've just really dedicated themselves to Therapsil's mission and to the psychedelic mission in Canada.
Yeah, amazing. And lastly, if someone is interested in learning more about the program or maybe signing up for it, what can they do?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can visit therapsil.ca/training for all information on training programs, our curriculum, our FAQ, go through the 6 steps. Everything's listed on that site. And if they have further questions, they can always reach out to support@therapsil.ca, and our team will respond within 24 hours. So any questions can be directed there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today, Yasmeen. It's been lovely learning about Therapsil.
Oh, thank you so much for the conversation, Charlie. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions or comments, make sure to drop those below, and we'll see you next time.